Hello legends. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the most customizable AI agent that you will ever see in n8n. Now, I'm not going to be showing you the regular AI agent that you're used to, which is this AI agent here that has a input for a chat model, has some memory input, multiple tool inputs, and when you dig inside, you can change the text input. So it's a chat trigger, or you define a custom one below. And then for add option, you can add a set of custom instructions that will then give your AI agent a custom role, so it can complete a certain task. In fact, what I want to show you is something which is completely more customizable. And to get to there, we first have to go to AI. It's not in this panel. Let's go all the way to the very bottom, click on other AI nodes. Once again, it's not here. We have to go to the very bottom, miscellaneous. And now we have this interesting node called LangChain code. So if I click this onto the canvas, this is what we're going to be speaking about today. So it looks like a very boring node. There are no inputs and no outputs. And if I click this open, it kind of looks like, what even is this? Is it like a generic node that does nothing? But I'm going to show you how actually this AI agent node under the hood is this LangChain code node, and how this LangChain code node is actually the underlying operator for this basic LLM chain, information extractor, question and answer, sentiment, summarization, text, all of these other LLM steps. All underneath the hood are this LangChain code node. So to show you what I'm talking about, let's just start trying to configure this. So let's go to this input tab. And if I just click on input, I'm going to scroll down and find main. If I click main, now I have some ability to actually connect something into this node. So I can get my chat trigger and plug it right into here. But now I actually need some kind of output as well. So let me go back into here and find this section that says add output. So for add output, I'm going to go down and choose main as well. And now I have an ability to input something, do something inside this node, and then have an output. But what if I want to add some AI model, memory, and tool calling? Well, I can actually do that as well. So for this input, I'm going to go to type, and now let's find language model. So go back onto the canvas, and we have our language model over here. So I can click this, and it comes up with the predefined options of something like Anthropic, or I can click it again, and I can add another AI model here. So OpenAI chat model. So this is actually pretty cool and unique. I can add multiple language models into this LangChain code node. Now let's go back in and try and make this look like an AI agent that we're used to. Let's go and choose for now, let's go memory. Okay, so now we have language, the actual chat model from what we're used to here. And then we have the memory node. Now, if I want to go back into here and add another tool call, let's say add input, and I can go to here and select tool call. So now this is more in line with what we're used to. We're used to seeing the chat model, a memory node, and then a tool node or a collection of tool nodes. So let me refresh this page, and hopefully it'll just recalibrate some of these. There we go, I've refreshed the page. Now the AI LLMs are plugged into the language. Now if I continue trying to configure this, if I click on this memory module, we have the same options that we have with the AI agent. So simple memory, we've got Postgres, and if I just click on this memory here, same kind of side panel opens up because it's configured for memory. And same thing with tools. If I click tool here, we've got n8n workflow, HTTP request. And if I click, just exit out of here, click tool, it's the exact same thing. So before I go on and I kind of do more of a comparison between the other LLM steps, and then actually show you a bit more about how this LangChain code node works, explain to you what LangChain is, and then also show you some interesting reporting that you can pull out, because now that we know this is LangChain, there's actually something called LangSmith, which is a customized reporting platform that integrates with LangChain. It's the same company that runs it, and you can get even more detailed data about token consumption, failures, runtime, everything that you would want from your AI agent. So I'm going to show you that a little bit later in this video. But first, let me prove to you that this is actually a LangChain code node underneath, just simplified for us to be able to use as not really technical users of n8n. So I'm going to cancel this out of here. I'm going to delete this, bring this AI agent, and I'm just going to download this workflow. And I've opened up the workflow over here. So this is the JSON of the workflow. And my AI agent node is n8n-nodes-langchain.agent. This literally shows that this node here, which is AI agent, is actually a LangChain.agent. So what is LangChain? So simply put, LangChain is a framework for building out AI agents. You may have heard of these guys already in your travels through the AI sphere. a lot of big businesses that are building out AI agents, both as co-pilots for their own products or as just AI agents for their businesses. So Replit has built their co-pilots on LangChain, and then someone like Klarna has built their customer support agent on LangChain as well. These businesses will rely on LangChain, which is a framework for building out AI agents. So looking over at AI agents, the underlying concept is that you have some input, you have some output, and then in between those, you have a set of actions that are defined by an LLM that has access to a set of tools, which is like plugging into Shopify, plugging into Zendesk, doing some kind of customized actions, and then also instructions or the system message, which gives this AI agent the understanding of here's a specific task you need to complete, and this is how you complete it. So since a lot of us build out AI agents in n8n, we're very used to being able to just quickly click on chat model and just plug into Anthropic. Or if we're not happy with this, we can just plug into, for example, DeepSeek or Google Gemini, or my other favorite is OpenAI. But the thing that we don't get exposed to is that under the hood, when you're using API calls for OpenAI or Anthropic or any other LLM provider, actually the API calls themselves, the structure of the API call, the response format, the configurations and settings, all of that is unique to the actual provider. So I couldn't just go into my coding tool, create an API call to OpenAI, and just interchange ChatGPT for Claude and expect it to work. It won't work. And the same thing goes with tool calls. When you're using tool calls with ChatGPT, there's a specific way to call the tool from the LLM, so from ChatGPT. There's a specific way to build the tool call API, specific way to retrieve the response of the tool call, and all that has to be customized specifically to the provider. So the fact that I can just really easily plug in OpenAI or Anthropic, I can quickly plug in a HTTP tool call, or I can plug into absolutely any other tool call from any other provider, scraping tools, Airtable, Asana, absolutely any other tool call, and automatically it's going to be suitable for use with any LLM that I use, any memory component that I use, be it internal memory from n8n, be it through an external database on something like Supabase, be it a vector database, be it whatever I can imagine that I want to connect to an AI agent. All of that, the ability to interchange and have everything work so seamlessly together, under the hood, that's thanks to LangChain. So let me explain that evolution to you by looking at something like ChatGPT. So when ChatGPT first came out, people started loving being able to just have a chat with infinite wisdom of an LLM that was trained on the internet. As time went on, we were able to upload documents and images, different files. We had the ability to do different tool calling. So OpenAI released something that was called Custom GPT, where you could actually configure your own GPT with a prompt and the ability to use different tools. But when the Custom GPT came out, this was only done through the ChatGPT interface. You couldn't actually pull this out and plug it into your website. So you couldn't interact with it programmatically by using code. Shortly after the Custom GPT came out, OpenAI released something called the Assistance API. So the Assistance API was just the programmatic version of a Custom GPT, where you can set a custom prompt. You can have different file search abilities. You can plug in your own documents and have your own vector database plugged into your AI model. And then you can do function calling. So you can actually plug into different tools and complete certain actions. Now, the main difference with something like the Assistance API from OpenAI and something like LangChain is that essentially they perform a similar function. They're both AI agents that have the ability to interact with external systems, and they run on LLMs. But the key difference is that OpenAI must run on the OpenAI infrastructure, so you can't just build an Assistance API and then plug it to use Claude as the brain. And on top of that, all the underlying conversations and all that data was going to be running through the OpenAI system. You couldn't actually take this and then host it on your own infrastructure. Where something like LangChain is a framework for building these AI agents. So it doesn't really have an opinion on which AI model you want to use, what tools you want to use, what the custom instructions, what the inputs and outputs are. All it wants to do is build a very simple way for you to dynamically build AI agents so that they can interact with any system, any LLM to perform any single task. So I've just asked ChatGPT to summarize the key differences between something like Assistance API versus LangChain in the context of n8n. So we can see that we have LangChain agents are highly customizable. You can mix different LLMs, so OpenAI, Claude, whereas Assistance API can only use the ChatGPT infrastructure. For tool integration, you can work with external tools and APIs, webhooks, databases. This is using your own logic. So you can actually build really powerful agents that can dynamically interact with different tools. Whereas something like the assistance API, the function calling, it's still there. You can still interact with different tools, but it's a lot more limited in nature. And in terms of how these systems work, so LangChain acts as a framework to help the AI think step by step and then use tools, whereas OpenAI handles the logic and everything in its own infrastructure. Now you can read through the rest of these by pausing the screen, but overall, for our use case here, really the difference between using the assistance API from OpenAI and something like an n8n AI agent is that for, let's say, 80% of the majority of use cases, they will perform the same or similar tasks, but n8n AI agents on LangChain give you much more customization and control. So the TLDR, too long didn't read, is that LangChain is like building your own AI brain inside n8n with full control over systems and tools and models. And the assistance API is like building an AI brain, but using the limited OpenAI infrastructure. It doesn't mean that necessarily it's going to be worse for that use case. But as we can see here, there are some tasks that we want to use different models for. We might want to build different integrations. And in general, from the n8n interface, it actually makes much more sense to have it highly customizable, because otherwise you would have an AI agent for every single LLM provider. So now that we know that under the hood, the n8n AI agent is actually a LangChain agent, what does that unlock for us? Like, are we any better with this knowledge, or is it pretty much, business as usual? We just continue using this n8n AI agent, or, do we actually want to consider using this super hidden away LangChain code node that we saw before? We can actually customize to be a fully autonomous agent as well. So the first interesting thing that I explored was, well, since it's a LangChain agent under the hood, there's actually a thing called Langsmith. So this is by the exact same company. And what Langsmith does, it basically gives you a full report of your AI agent calls. So what we see here is a breakdown of one single AI call. So let's say I'm back in n8n. A single agent call would be me saying, hello, hitting enter. And now this run is documented in Langsmith. Now I've just logged into Langsmith and I've got this plugged into my n8n. I didn't think it's necessary for me to explain how to do this right now. This is more of like an exploration. If you do find this is interesting, drop a comment below and say, Bart, can you explain how to do this? This is only possible for self-hosted, by the way. So I can go into my most recent execution, and if I click into it, I have on the left-hand side panel the full breakdown rundown of what happened in that entire agent call. And on the right-hand side, I've got this, firstly, underlying instructions that we don't see within n8n. And then I also have the input and the output of what I had from my agent. So if I zoom into this waterfall over here, I can see the overall agent execution took 1.03 seconds. I've got a bunch of different sections here, the runnable agent, the runnable sequence, and these are all just related to that LangChain framework. So in n8n, we actually don't see these little steps, but these are actually part of what happens behind the scenes with an AI agent. So overall, I might just want to look at, okay, well, I have 1.03 second runtime for this. If I go into my OpenAI model, I can see I've got a tool call section over here, but I didn't actually have a tool call execution. If I did, you would start to see the errors or the outcomes of the tool call over here. You can see all the total token costs. You can see absolutely everything to do with this agent. So that's one cool thing that you could do. You could go ahead and plug into LangChain's reporting dashboard, so Langsmith. Or number two, like we saw before, you could actually start building out really customized AI agents. So let's quickly just build out the AI agent we had before. We have a main input, which we can plug into our chat node. We also want to give our agent the ability to plug into an AI model. So we have language model. We also want to give the ability to plug into something like a memory, okay? And then I also want to get tool calls, which I have over here. And then if I go from my output, I just want to have a main route as well, where I can quickly plug in a main output. So here we have literally the same thing as this AI agent. The main difference is that we have this code node section here. So add code and execute. So this is just a default what is included here. And now, as you can see, we're actually starting to use LangChain libraries. So this is actually an interesting part of what I want to show you in this video. So in this video, I'm not going to be going through how to code up anything and actually build out an agent here. I want to speak about concepts. So this code node is actually what defines the custom actions of this LLM. So in here, I can actually build out entire workflows for my agents. Using code, I can actually build out sequences where my agents can dynamically decide on what tools to use. They can check the outcome of tools and then rerun the same tools if they think it's necessary. they can do loops, they can do if statements, they can conditionally go down different routes. In this code node, I could also build out multiple teams of agents to perform different tasks. I can jump tasks between agents. As you saw over here, I could actually plug in multiple different LLM models. So let's say my first agent might use something like Anthropic in order to review the request and understand and classify that request. Then I might use something like OpenAI to review a large corpus of data, to go through it, and then to add some additional context to a third agent, which might then use a totally different LLM altogether. And I can actually make that jump all within this code over here. But it is a little bit more complex to use because you actually have to be writing code. Now, a cool hack is that you can use Claude to write the code for you, but I just want to pull back a little bit and speak about the concepts over here. So that means using this LangChain code node, you can actually build out teams of agents or run really complex workflows. The most interesting thing that I actually want to explore more is, can agents be more autonomous using this LangChain code node? Can I build orchestrator agents within this workflow that can dynamically rerun tools, check the data, check outputs, re-review what the steps are? Can I get those thinking steps that you get in Claude or ChatGPT when it's like thinking about the user's request, making the plan? Can I build an agent that does that within LangChain code node? And the quick answer to that is yes, you can. So that's one thing I'm going to be exploring a little bit more. But the final comparison I want to make is I want to pull out some of these other AI nodes. So let's say this basic element, let's go actually information extractor, and let's pull out another one on top of this. Let's go to this AI step. Let's pull out question and answer as well. Let me just unplug these. And then let me get just one more, something like text classifier. So if you look at all of these AI nodes over here, these are all literally built on top of this LangChain code node. The only difference between what you see here is that, okay, this has got a model that you have to plug into. Sometimes they have different inputs or different outputs. Like the text classifier, I can dynamically add a bunch of outputs into this over here, where I can have, this is category A, category B, category C. I can do the same thing over here. If I go to my output field, I can add another main output, and then I can also have multiple outputs. So you can see that you can dynamically interact with some of these LangChain code nodes by using these pre-built nodes. Now, aside from the inputs and outputs, the core difference in how they operate is that you actually don't have to prompt up what this information extractor does. Behind the scenes, using this coded section that we would have to add over here for execute, n8n's come into here and written code that will perform a specific action. That's why it's blocked away, you don't see it, but you still have the ability to put, all right, this is the input text, and in most cases you have the ability to actually enter some kind of instruction. So if I go to here, add option, I have system prompt template, and I can modify this a little bit. But really, when you're using these predefined LLM nodes, the idea is that you don't really want to modify the system message because under the hood, it has the configuration ready to go. Same thing with question and answer. So you would maybe add a system prompt template here, but really what you're looking to do is add an AI model and then a retriever system to be able to answer those questions about your resources. And same thing about text classification. What's the input text? What's the category? And a quick description of that category. So if you imagine you're actually filling out these categories and then a description that the LLM would use to actually categorize your text, it's like you're actually operating within this LangChain code node. And the way that this code is set up is that it actually has dynamic inputs where if the user clicks this certain button, it just generates another output, and then a templated section where it says what's the title and the description. So yeah, I think from here, I'm really interested in the fact that we do have a lot of these LLM steps. And I mean, one of the reasons we're using n8n is because we want to introduce AI into workflows to dynamically be able to complete tasks for us. But I am super interested in actually jumping into here and exploring, okay, well, if I have the ability to add some of these inputs, like if I can really separate the document input from here, the embedding, the output parser that I'm using, the text splitter, like if I can fully define individual routes for these tools, does that mean my tool accuracy would get better? If I can actually have multiple outputs, just like I have here, these multiple outputs, does that mean that in this code node, instead of me having to use a separate code node over here and then an if node or a switch node, can I just model that entirely within this AI agent? And if you keep going down that thinking, it kind of comes to the point of like, well, what am I really building out in n8n? Do I really need to be building inside here? Or would I want to learn how to do these LangChain frameworks? And yeah, the high level answer is that no, I would actually stick it within n8n. I'm not really going to be transitioning to this anytime soon. And if I did, it would most likely be in a custom coded environment. So like on a tool like Cursor or Replit. And if I try and think to myself, like in 5 years time, what do I think is going to be more valuable? Do I think a tool like n8n is going to be more valuable? or understanding a framework like LangChain will be more valuable, I think the framework is going to be more valuable. Mainly because as we go on, and the softwares that we're using in businesses, they're going to become more autonomous and interconnected with different tools, just based off how we can use MCPs now. I think n8n will have to keep evolving to try to stay ahead of the curve. But anyway, guys, I wanted to deep dive into AI agents just to show you what's possible. If you do want a part 2, a follow-up going into how to use this LangChain code node more, how to set up that reporting, and just me exploring this on a more practical level, please drop a comment below. And if you've watched to the end of the video, I appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already, drop a comment. All those things will help signal to YouTube that this video is worth pushing and will help me grow my channel. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.